Welcome to the Farming Without the Bank podcast, the show with a no BS approach to money, hosted by a farm strategy expert and authorized IBC practitioner. Join us as we get real and expose the flaws of traditional financial institutions in order to help farmers take control of their finances, create peace of mind, grow their wealth, and leave a legacy. Now, here's your host, Mary Jo Ehrman.
Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. All right, today we are going to take some steps back into infinite banking because we talk about so many other things, but I really feel like the concept itself is being missed. And so let's just have a little recap today of infinite banking. Not numbers, not taxes, not estate planning, just the concept. And so if you are joining for the first time, what an absolutely fantastic treat for you. If you're an avid listener and you've been listening for a while and you're always wanting to know rates of return and what's my interest rate on the loan and all the other things, this is going to put into perspective for you what we are talking about with the concept, because so many people lose the concept in the process of banking. Nelson he really talked about 4 principles, and then we added another one later. But the first principle is think long term. And I've been shooting these out to you guys just a little bit at a time here and there, but it's going to be nice to bring them together. Number 1, think long term. Nelson was a forester. And so he was always talking about long term. If you plant a tree today, you're going to reap the rewards of that tree later, right? When we look at what we're doing, we need to be thinking long term about that. Long term of what's going to happen to the cash value in the policy. Where are we going to be in our life long term? Are we going to need cash always? Long term, are we ever going to be in a position in life where we stop using money? No, absolutely not. And so many of us want to say, oh, we're done at 65 and we're never going to need money again, when in fact we are. What does long-term dividends look like? So many people are doing policies that are 20 pay or paid up at 65 and they're 30 years old because the insurance company or the agent that's selling them that policy doesn't know how to structure it. They're not thinking long term. And many people say, well, I don't want to pay the premium till I die. Why? Why are you thinking so short term? Think long term. Okay. Number 1, thinking long term. Number 2, don't be afraid to capitalize that policy. People want to put in the least amount of money they can get. They can put in there. And then, Nelson told me one time, you put peanuts in, you're going to get peanuts out. And so if you want to create this huge amount of cash value in the policy and you want to have enough cash to bank with, you're going to need to capitalize the policy. Now, capitalizing the policy does not mean you need to have a policy that's $100,000 in premium or $250,000 in premium or $500,000 if you can't afford that. Capitalize it and stretch yourself to the point where you can be stretched financially. If that's $5,000, then it's $5,000. But so many people come in and they're like, well, Mary Jo, I'm never going to get away from the bank. Especially bigger size operations, bigger businesses are saying, well, I'm never going to get away from the bank. It doesn't matter. Well, then you're not capitalizing it. How much money are you spending on cash? I met with a wonderful gentleman the other day, and he is going to have $20,000 freed up from not making a payment on equipment anymore. So I have $20,000 paid up, and then he's buying stuff, $60,000 to $80,000 worth of things with cash every year. And so 60,000 of input, 60,000 of equipment, whatever that might be, that's just cash being used. How about we funnel some of that through the policy and capitalize? We can capitalize extra year 1. Many people also talk about Oh, in the first couple of years, I don't get access to all of my money. For the love of Pete, in the first 50 years or the first 30 years of your IRA, you didn't get access to it either, or your 401k or whatever. You have to capitalize. When you started your operation, when you started your business, you had to capitalize that thing. So, why are you holding the concept to a different standard? Capitalize. Think of how much you can put in. Be creative. Use your imagination, as Nelson would say. Okay. So, number one is think long term. Number two, don't be afraid to capitalize. Number three, don't steal the peas, which means if you are going to borrow money, pay it back. It's not free money. At least pay the interest, depending on how you're using that policy. If you've borrowed money from yourself, cash or through the policy, I frankly don't care. If you've borrowed money from yourself and you are not paying yourself plus interest, why? Why are you not paying the extra interest? Right now, loans are 7, 8, 10%. And if you're going to say, oh, the insurance company is only charging me 5.5, I'm only going to pay 5.5. Why are you stealing the peas? Why are you not being an honest banker and paying that back at 10%? Because that's what the bank was charging you. If you borrowed at 5.5 to pay down or pay off a credit card, why are you not paying that back at 25% if that's what the credit card was charging you? Being honest and don't steal the peas. This is probably the biggest hurdle people think about. And if you've not read Nelson's book, Becoming Your Own Banker, why have you not gotten it? My book is not the answer to every single solution. Mine and Nelson's together are amazing. They are companions to one another. And so if you've not gotten Nelson's book, go to the website and grab the book. There is absolutely zero excuse to read only my book, because there is a concept here, and he was the founder of the concept. Okay? I did not rewrite his book. There's no point. His book was written for a purpose. You need it. All of this stuff that I talk about is in there. So don't steal the peas. Number 4, don't use banks. And this is where a lot of people we're going to separate ourselves from the purists and the non-purists of infinite banking. The purists of infinite banking will say, I am not using the bank. The non-purist will say, well, I'm going to use the bank to leverage. There is nothing wrong with one side or the other. Nelson had a very strong viewpoint, a very Austrian economic-based viewpoint of what he was trying to accomplish. And so he did not believe that anybody should use the banking system, because if you borrow money from the bank, every payment that goes to them, they get to turn money. Every deposit, they get to turn money. And so we need to put money through a checking account in order to pay premium, right? We need to borrow money and stick it back into the bank so that we can use it. But we don't want money sitting in banks. We don't want to take loans from banks. Now, this comes from the fact that a lot of people tend to forget Nelson was caught in a real estate bubble crisis where he bought real estate and he got caught with his pants down, essentially at 23% interest in an $800,000 loan that needed to be paid back. And so he says that the fact that he made money off of real estate, he then caught this disease called more. And he just bought more and more, and he got in over his head a little bit. And part of the concept is that he does not want us to get there, right? That is where he really brings the Christianity and the Bible piece back into what he was talking about. Don't get in over your heads. So many people are using the bank to leverage and to grow faster and to do all these things and to be the real estate mongrels or whatever they're called. That is what people are wanting to do right now. Or I need to get big farming, or I need to get big ranching. And we're using the bank to do that. Do we need to? Can we do it a little bit slower without the bank? If we capitalize, because remember, he said, don't be afraid to capitalize. If we capitalize like we should, And we stretch ourselves to do that. If we capitalize, we'll get rid of the banks faster. The problem is that nobody wants to capitalize as quickly as they can. And I don't push people. And so most people will just do what I say. When I do tend to push people, they still back off because it's just not familiar. But if you can then start another policy and another policy and another policy, we can get rid of the banks. Are they an absolute sin to use? No, but my theory is they should be plan B, not plan A. Nelson's theory is they shouldn't even be a plan. None at all. If you can't do it through your policy, we should not be using them at all. So many people have questions on that, but that is not absolutely written in stone that you cannot use the banks. I try not to. Honestly, I am totally okay growing any type of real estate, buying any type of land without the bank. It depends on the circumstance. What if there's land right next to me that comes for sale? Well, maybe I'll borrow. Maybe I'll borrow for it. Depends how badly I want it. But right now, what I'm seeing is so many people are overpaying. They could end up in the same situation that we had in the 80s when Nelson got caught himself. So that is what he is talking about. So the main 4 is that you should think long term. Don't be afraid to capitalize. Don't steal the peas. Don't use banks. But then we have to add rethink your thinking. And the reason that we're going to add this one is because so many people, I don't even think people are thinking anymore. I really don't. And I think I talked about this in a podcast. We have to think about, why are we being told to do certain things? Why is the mass of people doing all the same things and all those same people are struggling? Is that working? Rethink your thinking. Shut the news off, like I've talked about before. Shut the news off and actually turn your brain on and start questioning things. And that's just not for everybody. But I find that when I quiet what's around me, and typically it is if I'm walking, if I'm showering, whatever, I don't have my phone in front of me and I'm not being bombarded with information. So I have time to think and I have time to really wonder about what's going on and what that looks like. So rethink your thinking. Is the 401k, is the IRA, is the bank really the best option? Is that estate plan really the best option? Do we have to do it that way? Or are we just being lazy thinkers and we're just not bothering? We're just letting somebody else tell us what to do and we're taking that as gospel. Rethink your thinking. So there you go. Those are the 5 principles of IBC. Those 5 principles are the foundation of the concept. The life insurance policy is the tool to that concept. And so for those people out there that are grabbing my book or that are listening to the podcast and then they're going to see another agent, is that agent helping you get your thinking correct around the concept? Most likely that agent doesn't have a clue what Nelson is talking about. They've never read Nelson's book. They're not being continually educated on it. They're not listening to any stuff. Seriously, this is not just about buying a policy. And if you think that you are going to go out there and you're going to conquer the world with this life insurance policy and an agent that is not authorized to teach the concept, good luck to you. You might have a policy, you might be using it, but are you using it to the extent that you could be? Are you capitalizing it like you should? Are you thinking about it like you should? You very well most likely are not. We are authorized practitioners for a reason. And I see this because I am in groups on social media of where people are not authorized with the Nelson Nash Institute. They are not teaching his teachings from Nelson's mouth. And they are on there answering people's questions about how things should be done. They're answering people's questions about what Nelson meant in the book, and they're flipping wrong. They're wrong. They don't get the concept. They're about numbers. It's constantly about numbers. Oh, and you guys all know what happens when we start talking about rates of return with Mary Jo. I lose my mind because it is not about that. And so it's proof, absolute 100% proof to me that people just don't understand what they are talking about. And yet they want you to believe they are so they can sell you some life insurance. Okay. Those are the 5 principles. If you don't have Nelson's book, go to farmingwithoutthebank.com and get the book. There's no reason to not have it. There's no reason to not read it. Here's another thing I'm going to end with today. Is I have been talking to people, a lot of people. I mean, I'm always talking to a lot of people. And it is evidently clear to me that if you listen to the book, you are not understanding everything as if you read the book. I want you to get the hard copy. You get the audio and get the hard copy at the same time. If you're buying the audio book, if you scroll down in your emails, there should be attachments for all the graphs and all the diagrams and all the numbers in the book. If you're not getting that, then you need to email us and let us know. But they should be there. So many people come into meetings and they are so completely lost with the numbers and they don't understand how the policy is growing because they haven't got the hard copy. It is no different than Nelson's book. He has it on audio, but you want the hard copy. So I get that you maybe don't like to read or you're driving a lot. I don't care. You're sitting on the couch at night at some point doing what? Scrolling social media? Open up the book so you can see the back half of the book and how those numbers are working. Read the book. You will always get more out of the book. I had somebody email me and say, well, Mary Jo, how does something about loans? You have like 4 or 5 questions. And I said, all of those questions are in the book. Every single one of those questions, the answer is in the book. And he emailed me later and said, oh, I found it. I went back and reread it and it was there. You shouldn't just be reading the book one time. You should be reading my book all the time. You should be reading Nelson's book all the time because you're going to find stuff in there that you missed the first time because your brain was just in a different spot. I reread Nelson's book a couple of times a year, ideally. And so that I am refreshed with everything that he was teaching. This is not a one and done type thing. Okay. If you need me, you let me know, Mary Jo at withoutthebank.com. If you have a question or a comment or suggestion, you can always go to themjhotline.com and you can leave me a note there as well. All right, you guys, thank you for being here and you have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to the Farming Without the Bank podcast. We hope today's episode has inspired you to take control of your finances in new ways. Don't forget to check out our website, farmingwithoutthebank.com, and engage with us on our Facebook page, Farming Without the Bank. Join us next week as we smash more financial myths and empower you to accomplish your financial goals.